Hello ladies, thanks for joining me. I'm going to do a quick share here and then we'll get started. Let's see. I hope you're all having a good Wednesday. Happy hump day. Do one more. If you would help me out by sharing, I would appreciate that as well. Did anybody invite anybody new to come watch the Facebook Live with us? Anybody? We're always looking for new followers. Okay. All right, let's see who all is here. Hi, Sharon and Mary Lou, Patricia from Indiana, Diane. Hi, Pam. Hi, Susan and Debbie. Thanks so much for sharing. I appreciate it greatly. Okay, tonight's going to be a little bit different. I have 4 cards to show you, but I'm not going to make all of the cards with you. The focus tonight is on showing you different products that you can use embossing folders with. So I picked out one of my newest ones, the Winter Snow embossing folder, and it's just a standard folder. The standard folders are rather thin. In our catalog, we have ones that are marked, let's see here, 3D. So we have 3D folders, and then we have standard folders. If there's nothing next to the name, like this one, Woodland, is just a standard folder, a thin one, just like this. Okay, so currently we have the standard and we have the 3D, and our new Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine accommodates both of those, as well as the old thick folders, the dynamic folders, that are the thickest of all 3. And I will be doing a quick tips video about making your sandwiches for those 3 different types of folders. And it's very easy once you know it is there on the print, but just a little bit easier if we kind of walk through it. So look for that coming soon. But today's embossing folder Facebook Live, I'm using Winter Snow, and you'll see I'm using some of the Snowflakes Splendor Designer Series paper, as well as some other things that I will point out to you as we go on. Okay, so here's my Big Shot. Brand new, loving how it works. It comes with all the plates you need to get started. Okay, and you can see that I've made some notes on mine. It also comes with directions here, but I have found the quick notes that are on the platforms to be the best for me. The biggest thing on this is when you are using dies, basically you're using numbers 1 and 2. Okay, and here it says do not use with embossing folder. Whenever you're using any kind of embossing folder, you are not using number 2. Now here it says using with standard embossing folders. So I know I'm going to use number 1, and then I'm going to use 2 number 3s. Do you see that? Oops, I'm not in the screen, am I? Hold on a second. I thought I was, but let's redo that. Okay, so here's all your directions. Okay, so if you're using the thin dies, you're going to layer like this, and your 2 number 3 cutting. I'm going to see if I can switch this a little. No. And then if you are using embossing folders, you're not using number 2 at all. And this platform gives you the directions for the standard embossing folder, which is that snowflake embossing folder I just showed you. We're going to use number 1 and 2 number 3s. Okay, this little line here indicates 2 number 3s. Now, if I were using a thick 3D folder, then I would be using number 1 and number 4. Okay, and I will go over the difference with all of those at another time. But for now, with this winter white or winter snow embossing folder, this is what I'll be using. Okay, so the focus tonight, again, as I said, is on using different materials with your dry embossing. So I'm going to show you this card first. Okay, isn't that pretty? It's just white and silver foil. And if you look closely, the white snowflakes are all raised because I put that cardstock through the embossing folder. So I've got a piece of Whisper White here. I'm going to stick it through. One thing I should mention, if you ever feel that this is too hard to crank, stop. Something's wrong. You don't have the layers or the sandwich made correctly. Do not force the machine, okay? Let's see if I can go back to the original sizing, but it's not letting me. I think I'm a little too close. Now what I wanted to show you, a variation on this card and how I made this card. You can also flip over your cardstock after you've embossed it, and now you've got the smooth side with the snowflakes indented. And that makes a fun card as well. Now I want to show you this trick here, and we'll do a little bit of die cutting. I have this piece of adhesive sheet. I'm using up my old ones before I buy any of the new, but I'm sure they work the same. But I cut my adhesive sheet just a little bit smaller than my silver foil paper. And now what I'm going to do, before I adhere this to it, I'm going to cut out my snowflakes. So I've got some snowflakes here. I'm going to need to change up my platform because I am die cutting. So my platform tells me for die cutting I need number 1, number 2, and both number 3s. So here's 1, 2, a number 3, and then I'll put my silver foil paper down. Make sure the cutting edges are kind of tucked in. You want to be aware of the border around here. And the way to check to make sure those snowflakes are not sticking out where you don't want them, just lay that piece of cardstock on top of it. And then you're going to place the other number 3 cutting plate on top. You also want to make sure it's okay if your dies are close, but make sure that they are not overlapping each other or not even touching each other, because we don't want them to overlap and go through the machine like that, as it could damage them. You know, like just bend the edges of the die, and we don't want that to happen. Now this cut out fabulously through the silver foil paper as well as that adhesive sheet I put on. It's a little sticky though, pulling it off. And I'll show you why I use the adhesive sheets here. I didn't on my first time around and figured it would be a better idea to use those. You may need to pull out your die brush. Most of the little bits just popped right out when I pulled them off the machine. Quick and fast. Between the new dies being manufactured in a different place and the new machine, the cutting is fabulous. Okay, so now I have this and I just want to lay this on top. All right, and I have my Whisper White card base right here. So I think what I'm going to do is adhere this to the card base first. And since I put the adhesive sheet on, and I didn't really put it on for this part, but I may as well use it, right? I put it on because of those intricate snowflake dies. Need to lift that off a little bit. There we go. Just take your pick tool. Has so many uses. I'm always grabbing it for one thing or another. So I'm going to center that on my card front. And then I'm ready to put this on. And that just classic white and silver looks so elegant. And remember that I said I'm changing it up this time by flipping over that embossed white so that it's what we would think of as the front side is now going to be the back side. It just gives a different look to your embossed cardstock if you flip it over. Either one is perfectly fine, but it's just a little variation. It's always nice to have a little choice or a little variation, especially when you want to show off to your family and friends with your handmade cards. Okay, now this is where it can be a little tricky because you want to find a spot where you can pull off, whoops, you want to be able to pull off, I'm trying to just get an edge because once I get an edge I'll be fine. And we may just move on because I can't get it. There we go. So just delicately, as delicately as you can, as it will let you, just pull that backing off. It doesn't matter if those bend and twist a little bit. Start by laying down the middle and just pull your fingers out and then like that. Okay? The debossed side. Yes, Julie. Embossed, debossed. Or concave, convex. Okay, and then I would do the same thing with these. All right. I did not put a greeting on this yet because I'm not sure how I'm going to use it. But I really think it's very elegant, very simple card, and it's a very cost-effective card if you make a lot of cards. Okay, moving on. So we've embossed cardstock. Now I want to show you embossing on Designer Series paper. And it's really not about the material that you're embossing. It's about the layers or the product you're using that decides the layers you're going to have. Okay, so it's not about, is it, DSP or cardstock that I'm embossing. It's about which embossing folder am I using. I'm using a standard one. Oops, look, I already did something. It was too forceful, too hard. Could feel it wasn't going to go through, so I'm going to stop and I'm going to recheck. Here's my problem. Do not use with embossing folders. But I laid that back in the mix when I was die cutting and I didn't check. But I could tell right away with that first little crank, I knew right away, okay, my layers are wrong because of how hard it was to do that. Okay, so here you can see that. And we could have embossed either side. It's a pretty fancy paper already with the watercolor wash and the various snowflakes in different sizes and shades in there. But I thought it was pretty neat. Now, a couple things I want to tell you about this card. I got an extra layer of the Pacific Point there. So what I did was adhered the DSP, the embossed DSP, to that. And then my ribbon detail right here, I just put, and you can use regular Scotch tape. Mine is with my office supplies right now. I didn't pull it out because I was getting packages and different things ready to mail. So I left it right where it was. But I can use some of my regular adhesive just to hold down those ends. And this ribbon, it takes a little bit to hold it down because of the texture of the ribbon. I'll just fold those ends over and I'm adhering them to the back. I'm going to lay this one right next to it. You could use one ribbon, you could use 2 pieces, you could use 3 pieces. But I think this is just kind of a fun and different way to use ribbon. And then once you've done that, put some adhesive on the top of those. Then once you've done that, you're ready to put it on your card front. Now for this sentiment, I did stamp with the Pacific Point ink, but that is very bold ink, okay, very bold ink. So I stamped off first, then stamped on to the white cardstock and punched it with the 2-inch punch, and then I put a 2 1/4 inch circle punch behind it. Now you're wondering where I got this snowflake. Well, let me just show you. Before I adhered this piece of Whisper White to the inside like I normally would, I just laid one of my dies on there and ran it through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and instead of throwing that away, I adhered it to the front. Okay, this I think could use a little wink of Stella on that snowflake. When you feel like it needs a little something, wink of Stella is always a good bet. Okay. And you can't overdo wink of Stella. It's just so subtle and shimmery. You can't overdo it. Let me show you one more thing with wink of Stella. I know I've done this, but you may or may not have seen. you can just do real simple strokes on your lettering. And it will pull the ink a little bit, but it looks really cool. Just go slow and steady. I could have left the letters plain and just did these little accent marks, barely even touching. So it's another fun way to add just a wee bit of shimmer to your pretty cards. Okay, can you see that? I don't know how well that shows up on the film, but it's just got a very light, very subtle, you can't even call it glitter. It's just a nice shimmer. Okay, so there's tips on making that card. Now that you've embossed, we've embossed with the Designer Series paper. So far we've done cardstock and we've done Designer Series paper. Can you think of other things that would be wonderful for embossing? And again, no matter the materials we're embossing, because I'm using a standard embossing folder, meaning our thin one, I'm just going to use the same sandwich every time. How about some silver foil? Let me show you this. Okay, look at this card. I went a little crazy on it too with the embellishing. Again, I'm not sure how I'm going to use this. It could be for like a silver wedding anniversary that might be over the winter, even perhaps a wedding, a winter wedding. Could be for just a winter birthday. It could be for Christmas, New Year's, or simply just a note card. But I embossed my silver foil paper with that winter snow embossing folder. That's all I did, simple. And it was gorgeous, but I decided to take it a step further and really bling it up. So every place there was a snowflake, I added a tiny rhinestone. I don't know how well you can see that. I know there's glare. Can you catch some of those rhinestones? But it looks so much better in person. It just looks completely 100% elegant. And again, just simple, the silver and white. And the ribbon I used is from the Magic in This Night suite, that Halloween suite in our new mini catalog. I'm going to put it here so maybe you can see better. And that's all it is. So I've already used this with Halloween cards, but I thought, oh, it's great for the holidays. It's great for New Year's, could be for weddings and anniversaries, graduations. I love it. In fact, I might be stocking up on it because I think it would look really cool on wrapped packages as well. Okay, so now we've done cardstock, Designer Series paper, and silver foil. I'll just lay these out here so you can see. There's my first card. I'll put the finished one out. Okay, so we went from cardstock to DSP to silver foil. Can anybody guess what the last material I used to emboss with is? Any guesses? And then I'm going to show you a fun trick for this card. 3 of the 4 cards I did not put sentiments on, just because I'm holding off a little bit to see how I want to use those, if I want to make them part of a holiday class or do something else. Here's my 4th card. Can you see what that is? Can you tell? It's vellum. is just our plain vellum. I just cut it, ran it through the machine with that winter snow embossing folder. And then if you look closely, I also added Wink of Stella to, well, to most of the snowflakes. I left a few to do and show you. And it's just super simple. I hardly even touch the snowflakes, but I try to get those 6 points or extensions of the snowflakes. And I did it to each one. And it really didn't take me very long at all. Look how quickly I'm doing this, because we don't have to be perfect. We're just add a little bit of shimmer. I'm trying to keep it on the snowflakes, but if I go off the snowflake onto the vellum, no big deal. How many of you own the Wink of Stella? Okay, super simple. Okay, one thing I want to show you about this card, and this is my inside. I did my stamping on the inside. May your season sparkle. This would be another good place to add some Wink of Stella, right? I don't know why I'm so crazy with Wink of Stella tonight. But when it's the right time to use it, it's the right time to use it. Okay. Just a little shimmer on those snowflakes. What I want to show you about this card is how I adhered my vellum to that silver foil, because that can be kind of tricky and slippery and stuff. So I'll show you what I did. So here are my 2 pieces. This is my embossed vellum. It would look pretty on other colors too, other colors of cardstock. And what I did was just I found kind of the center, and I just put 1 glue dot on the vellum. I centered my vellum on the silver foil paper and stuck it down. Now you need a hole punch. I've got my trusty old, what do I want to call it? Crop-A-Dile, right? Crop-A-Dile. Best hole puncher I've ever had, I have to say. Okay, so I'd say the middle's about here, and I like to just kind of mark. I'm going to make a little indentation there where I'm going to, again, I'm kind of looking at the middle. Just a little indentation where I want to punch my holes. If you want to measure, go ahead and measure. I tend to eyeball everything. And you maybe want them, 3/4 of an inch apart, something like that. Half inch to 3/4, I would say. Okay, so the only place where the vellum is stuck is right where I put that glue dot in the center. And you're going to be like, well, Mary, you can't stick that on the card. And I say, well, no, the vellum might fall off, but I can do this with my ribbon. I just took a piece of ribbon, probably about 6 inches. I'm going to work from the front to the back right now. I'm going to put one end in the right hole and the other end of the ribbon in the left hole. I'm going to just kind of match up the ends there and tug it so it's a little snug there. And now I'm going to cross these, excuse me, I'm going to cross these and do the same thing. One end of the ribbon through that left hole, and then the other ribbon through the right hole. Whoops, kind of tugged. And if it does that where it's not laying just right, you can pull that ribbon out and get it to lay flat. And then I just trim off the ends. Cut your ends at an angle so it looks professional. And now I'm ready to put that on my card front. Okay, super easy, super easy. Now, if you still decide that you want to adhere the vellum more securely, there's something to me about vellum to have it lifting off the paper, lifting off the card or whatever you're using it on. It's just something elegant about it. But if you feel that you still want to secure the vellum down, I'm going to suggest that you use a tiny bit, just a couple of dots of the Tombow glue, the multi-purpose glue, and I would say you want to hide them just in case it would show, but it really doesn't with this glue. But maybe just do, you know, a couple spots. But if you put that glue in the center of a few of those snowflakes, number one, it's easy to keep track of where it is, and it's not going to show through. The glue dots will still show through, okay? Glue dots will still show through. So this ribbon option is a nice way to adhere vellum to anything else, cardstock, the foil paper, whatever you like, without it having adhesive show through. But if you really want to secure it, just use tiny dots of the multi-purpose glue. All right, so there. So now, do not limit yourself to embossing with just cardstock. It's beautiful to use cardstock, right? But why not emboss some designer series paper, giving it even more dimension and making it even more beautiful than it already is. You can emboss foil, any colors of our foil, and we have some great colors now. And even the brushed metallic paper, the brushed metallic foil paper, whatever the name is, brushed metallic, it looks gorgeous embossed as well. And then finally embossing on vellum. Okay, so now the only thing I have left to do is add some sentiments to each of these and think about who will get them. And I think today I will give away a couple of cards. So I will pick 4 winners, and I meant to announce the winner from Monday. I have it upstairs, it's not with me. But I'm going to give away all 4 cards. So feel free to, if it doesn't have a sentiment, to put on the sentiment of your choice, or simply use it as a note card. I think any of these too, you could make sets, especially this one and this one. Make up sets of these, maybe make up this in different colors and box it pretty, and you could give it to somebody as a set of note cards over the holidays. Perfect hostess gift, gifts for teachers, colleagues, neighbors, that sort of thing. Okay, thanks so much for spending part of your Wednesday with me. I hope you have a great evening. I will not be live tomorrow. I have a noon appointment, and last week it went over, so I'm just going to do my next